In November of 1991, Parker Turner and his exploration partner, Bill Gavin, went cave diving at Indian Springs in Wakulla County, Florida. Accompanied by other experienced divers, their goal was to locate new passages in the deeper section of the cave. The team planned this excursion for nearly 2 years, and in the beginning, everything had gone according to plan. But then something unthinkable happened, a mystery that will not be solved until decades later, a mystery that claimed the life of one diver. Indian Springs is located 13 miles south of Tallahassee, near the Bethel community. It's a beautiful circular pool with green algae floating in clumps around its edges, giving its clear water a greenish tint. Surrounding the pool are platforms, observation decks, water slides, and canoes. These installations were built by Tallahassee's YMCA in order to turn the pool and the surrounding dense forest into a recreational area. The pool is not considered big, only measuring 185 feet in diameter and 30 feet deep. However, on the north side of the pool's sandy bottom lies a semicircular limestone entrance that leads to a much larger underwater cave system. With smooth sand at the bottom and hard and delicate limestone walls and ceilings, this underwater system is like a siren that lures many divers to explore its depths. WKPP, or Woodville Karst Plain Project, is a non-profit organization established in 1990. Its mission is to map the underwater caverns underlying the Woodville Karst Plain, a vast 450 square mile area that runs from Tallahassee, Florida, US, to the Gulf of Mexico. Parker and Gavin were part of this organization. Since its establishment, WKPP had already explored and recorded miles of cave passages underlying Wakulla Springs and the Florida aquifer. In the process, they have also been preparing to enter a series of other caves. One of them was the Indian Springs Cave, whose unique profile and depth of more than 130 feet made it hard for casual recreational divers to explore. Diving in this cave would require experience, specialized training, and a custom mix of gases that divers can safely breathe in while exploring in the deep. WKPP had prepared for this dive for nearly 2 years. On November 17, 1991, they finally set out to meet at Indian Springs. The dive plan consisted of a 40-minute transit at 140 feet depth, a 20 to 25-minute search for unexplored passages at a depth of 300 feet, followed by the return 40-minute transit to exit the cave, a simple in and out. Supported by other WKPP members, Parker and Gavin made the dive. Everything went almost exactly according to plan. However, when they were returning to the entrance to complete their decompression, something went terribly, horribly wrong. George Irvine was one of the support divers during the Indian Springs dive. He and his diving partner, Lamar English, were tasked to place the deep decompression bottles along the guideline. Another team, Bill Main and his diving partner, were to follow behind them to place the intermediate bottles. The rest of the WKPP were on land and in the basin, ready to provide help when needed. Irvine was the one to mix their backgas, but he didn't know that the cave went deeper than 150. Certain depths require different gas specifications. Diving deeper with the wrong mix is extremely dangerous, so having no choice, the two stopped at 110, clipped off the deco bottles for Parker and Gavin, before turning back to the entrance. They were out of the cave at 50 feet. There they find Bill Main and his partner decompressing. At the same time, Irvine's computer wanted an unrealistic deco. He had to take it off, strapped it to his scooter, before dropping the scooter to the floor below. 4 minutes later, everything suddenly turned chaotic. Water went rushing past them, and silt and debris from who knows where created an underwater sandstorm. Irvine and Main frantically swam to the ceiling. They thought Irvine's scooter had somehow run off and was thrashing the place. In reality, the scooter was sitting peacefully at the bottom. What really happened is that some limestone formation was suddenly dislodged from the cave ceiling, creating a hole and pulling in sand, silt, and debris, which then rushed in from above like a landslide. Visibility quickly dropped to near zero. Above, the support team saw the water level quickly sinking, a temporary reversal of the flow. before just as quickly returning back to normal levels. The rushing water pulled the sand and debris over the restriction at the entrance of the cave, and then all movement stopped. All of the silt and clouds of sand were suddenly gone, sucked into the cave. Irvine and company were surprised to find themselves in clear water again, as if the previous sandstorm was nothing but hallucinations. Irvine dropped down to his scooter, still believing that it was somehow responsible for the chaos, but the scooter was untouched. None of them realized what had truly happened. Even the team above thought it was nothing but a bizarre incident. Below, deep in the caves, Parker and Gavin were fighting for their lives. After 23 minutes of exploring the deep section known as Wakulla Room, the two divers were ready to head back to the surface. They used their scooters to ascend faster. At 500 feet near the entrance, after turning left in an upstream-downstream junction, they noticed the visibility dropping fast. A billowing cloud of silt rose, quickly obscuring the cave floor from view. Thankfully, near the ceiling where their guideline was sitting, the water was still clear. They followed their line to the entrance, but with every foot they traversed, the worse the visibility got. They had no choice but to drop. Finally, they had to leave their scooters behind and swim while maintaining physical line contact. After several minutes, they reached Squaw's restriction, a narrow obstruction that they had to pass in order to get to the cave entrance. Visibility in this area was less than 1 foot. Parker and Gavin were both experienced divers. Realizing that the situation cannot be easily resolved, the two quickly adapted, switching between bottles to make their gas last as long as they could. They have 2 lines running parallel in the cave at this point. However, the ends of both lines were buried in the sand, and despite numerous attempts, the lines cannot be retrieved. 45 minutes passed, but all of their efforts to look for a way out was in vain. At this point, Parker showed Gavin his pressure gauge, which indicated 400 psig of gas left. It wasn't much. Deciding to do one last attempt, Gavin told Parker to hold on while he went back to search using his reel, but 5 minutes passed and he still did not find an exit. Gavin returned, but Parker was not where he left him. By this time, Gavin himself only had less than 300 psig of gas. With no other alternatives, he made a last-ditch effort at finding an opening. Miraculously, he found another line teed into the permanent line. Without hesitation, Gavin followed this line until he reached a point where the cave seemed to open up. He looked up and realized that he had cleared the restriction. Almost out of gas, he raced to where their decompression bottles were hanging at about 100 feet. While he began breathing from his deco bottle, he realized that Parker was not there. He had drowned. Gavin was later found by the support team who explained what happened. After 4 hours of decompression, Gavin surfaced with no physical damage. Following the tragedy, the team laid out many lines throughout the cave to try to locate Parker's body, though he wasn't found until the following morning when visibility had improved to 10 feet. Since the accident, nobody has been able to explain what really happened. Some speculated that a diver testing out a new scooter had impacted the cave, causing the collapse. Others said that land clearing with explosives nearby was the cause. There was also a theory about how scuba divers exhaled gases during decompression that may have been the cause, but no scientific support has been offered until now. Doran Knopf, a Nansen professor of physical oceanography at Florida State University, is a longtime scuba diver who has been interested in the Indian Springs accident for years. He said that various opinions about the accident didn't add up, so he set out to do his own research and formulated a theory, which he published in 2009. Following that, Knopf wrote a paper detailing experiments that demonstrated the physics that led to the tragedy at Indian Springs. Apparently, the reason for the collapse was indeed the bubbles exhaled during decompression. Long deep dives like the one in Indian Springs require divers to do longer decompression stops than normal. Decompressing for more than 30 minutes in a small cave at 10 to 20 feet deep will build up exhaled gases that will be trapped at the top of the cave. Bubbles change the density of the water and reduce buoyancy, which affects the stability of the limestone and dolomite, making up the cave walls and ceiling. On the day of the disaster, several divers had contributed to the exhaled gases which changed the buoyancy of the water. The limestone in the ceilings became heavier until it eventually dislodged and crashed onto the floor cave. This theory had far-reaching implications for cave divers everywhere, as decompression is a necessary stop that must be done in order to adjust the body before resurfacing. Considering this, Knopf only has one recommendation for cave divers: avoid decompression in the same place if you suspect that the ceiling above you contains some rocks which may fall down due to bubbles. If you have followed this story to this point, I would like to say a big thank you. If you like this kind of story, don't forget to hit the like button and leave a comment below. For more of this type of content, please click on the subscribe button and turn on your notification bell so you will be notified when another video is posted. Until next time, be cautious and don't ever lose your sense of wonder.